Good day, everyone! In this video, we are going to discuss the grade 10 MAPE lesson under Arts for the first quarter. This lesson will be focused on the different types of modern art. If you are ready to listen, let's start with our lesson. In all human history, art has mirrored life in the community, society, and the world in all its colors, lines, shapes, and forms. The same has been true in the last 2 centuries, with world events and global trends being reflected in the art movements. The decades from 1900 to the present have seen the human race living in an ever-shrinking planet. The 20th century saw a boom in the interchange of ideas, beliefs, values, and the lifestyles that continues to bring the citizens of the world closer together. From the Industrial Revolution of the late 1800s, the world zoomed into the electronic age in the mid-1900s, then into the present cyberspace age. In just over 100 years, humans went from hand-cranked telephones to hands-free mobile phones, from the first automobiles to interplanetary space vehicles, from local radio broadcasting to international news coverage via satellite, from vaccinations against polio and smallpox to laser surgery. When it comes to the effects on the world of art, the art movements of the late 19th century to the 20th century captured and expressed all these and more. Specifically, these were the movements known as Impressionism and Expressionism. While earlier periods of art had a quite set conventions as to the style, technique, and treatment of their subjects, Impressionists and Expressionists conveyed their ideas and feelings in bold, innovative ways. These were the exciting precursors of the modern art of the 20th century. In this lesson, we are going to talk about the different kinds of 20th century art forms. We'll be talking about Impressionism, Expressionism, Abstractionism, Abstract Expressionism, and lastly, the contemporary art forms. Let's start with the origins of the movement of Impressionism. Impressionism was an art movement that emerged in the second half of the 19th century among a group of Paris-based artists. The duration of the Impressionist movement itself was quite short, less than 20 years from 1872 to the mid-1880s. But it had a tremendous impact and influence on the painting styles that followed, such as Neo-Impressionism, Post-Impressionism, Fauvism, and Cubism, and even the artistic styles and movements of today. The name Impressionism was coined from the title of a work by the French painter Claude Monet. This painting is entitled Impression Soleil Levant. In English, it's called Impression Sunrise, and it is an oil on canvas that Claude Monet decided to do in the year 1872. The term precisely captured what this group of artists sought to represent in their works, the viewer's momentary impression of an image. It was not intended to be clear or precise, but more like a fleeting fragment of reality caught on canvas, sometimes in mid-motion, at other times awkwardly positioned, just as it would be in real life. Let's talk about the influence of Delacroix. As with all emerging art movements, Impressionism owed its inspiration to earlier masters. One major influence was the work of the French painter Eugène Delacroix. Delacroix was greatly admired and emulated by the early Impressionists, specifically for his use of expressive brush strokes, his emphasis on movement rather than on clarity of form, and most of all, his study of the optical effects of color. In particular, Delacroix's painting, The Bark of Dante, contained a then revolutionary technique that would profoundly influence the coming Impressionist movement, and it involved something as simple as droplets of water. The painting is loosely based on a fictional scene from Dante's Inferno. showing Dante and the poet Virgil crossing hell's river Styx while tormented souls struggle to climb aboard their boat. It is the drops of water running down the bodies of these doomed souls, see the enlarged detail, next slide, that are painted in a manner almost never used in Delacroix's time. When studied closely, it is seen that 4 different unmixed pigments, yellow, green, red, and white, create the image of each drop and its shadow. Viewed from a little distance, these colors blend to represent individual drops glistening with light. The distinct colors merge in the eye of the viewer to appear monochromatic, which means single-colored, or in this case of water droplets, colorless. In short, an impression is formed. Putting this and similar principles into wider practice, future painters would carry French art into one of its richest periods, Impressionism. Now let's talk about a break from past painting traditions under Impressionism. There were several areas in which Impressionist artists moved away from the established particles of art at the time. This involved their use of color, choice of subject matter and setting, and technique for capturing light and conveying movement. Let's talk about color and light. The painting conventions and techniques of earlier art periods were very much concerned with line, form, and composition. In contrast, the Impressionists painted with freely brushed colors that conveyed more of a visual effect rather than a detailed rendering of the subject. They used short, broken strokes that were intentionally made visible to the viewer. They also often placed pure unmixed colors side by side, rather than blended smoothly or shaded. The result was a feeling of energy and intensity, as the colors appeared to shift and move again, just as they do in reality. When it comes to everyday subjects, Impressionists also began to break away from the creation of formally posed portraits in grandiose directions of mythical, literary, historical, or religious subjects. They ventured into capturing scenes of life around them, household objects, landscapes, and seascapes, houses, cafes, and buildings. They presented ordinary people seemingly caught off guard doing everyday tasks, at work or at leisure, or doing nothing at all. And they were not made to look beautiful or lifelike, as body parts could be distorted and facial features merely suggested by a few strokes of the brush. The location in which the Impressionists painted was also different. Previously, still lifes, portraits, and landscapes were usually painted inside a studio. However, the Impressionists found that they could best capture the ever-changing effects of light on color by painting outdoors in natural light. This gave their works a freshness and immediacy that was a quite change from the stiffer, heavier, more planned paintings of earlier masters.